Greetings, YouTube land. I am Seraphis, the procrastinating space pirate, and this is going to be the first of a dedicated dive into lore videos that I'll be doing on different universes, varying from role playing games to video games to TV shows and movies to even books. Hmm, actually, let's change the decor. Ah, that's better. To start me off, I am going to be focusing on something that is near and dear to my heart for over 20 years, something that has influenced me in terms of space, military fleet composition, and the power of stubbornness of wanting to adapt a property to an RTS game being rejected, approaching another property being rejected, so just making up your own thing. This is the story of Homeworld. On the edge of the galaxy, on a desert planet almost hostile to all life, a race of human like beings live. This world is Karak, and they are the Kushan. For thousands of years, the Kushan lived and toiled on Karak, believing their existence on this world to be punishment from Kwajet, the god of pain and enslavement. And so the more fanatical religious amongst them saw fit to punish those they saw as heretics to the great maker, Sajuk, he whose hand shapes what is. This would culminate in a bloody war between rival religious kiths, the name they used for their clans, until a third group entered the scene. Kith Galcine and Kith Sadim were on course to wipe out all the northern Kith, when from out of the northern mountains a new Kith appeared, and yet an old Kith. They were Kith Nabal. The Nabali were, by trade, technically inclined and had great understanding of tools. So when they hid away to technologically advance themselves, the medieval-style armies of Galcine and Sadim were powerless to the onslaught of steam-powered vehicles and weapons. The bloody heresy wars were over. The time of reason had begun, and an age of peace and prosperity could begin under a united government in the Nabali capital of Tyr. After the first satellites were put into orbit, a signal was discovered on the surface of Karak, within the Great Banded Desert, where there had been no settlement and no advanced technology before. The Jaraki object, as it was originally known, began to be the main focus of the Northern Coalition of Kithid, and after two attempted expeditions, the site of the primary anomaly was reached. It was a ship, a crashed spaceship. But more than that, ruins around the ship made it clear that this was also the ancient city of Kartoba, where all the Kith had come from. Were the Kushan exiled to this world? Studies began comparing the DNA of Kushan to the flora and fauna of Karak, and discovered that the Kushan have basically no base DNA in common with the pre-existing life of this desert world. The evidence was clear. The Kushan needed answers, and from within the Kartoba wreck, it was found. On a mineral slab, not native to Karak, was etched a star map of the galaxy, showing the planet Karak and a path leading from the desert world to a spot just east of the galactic core, marked by a word all Kith knew: Higara, our home. For 100 years, most of the Kith put aside their past grudges with the sole focus of the construction of a great mothership to take them from Karak to this world of Higara. And while sabotage from remaining Galcine, and potentially Sadim, Kith agents would cause the project to take longer, the mothership was eventually completed. A crew was formed from the Northern Coalition and Southern Free State Kithid, and 600,000 colonists were chosen. The one remaining hurdle was the mothership control system. A computer system hadn't been able to be developed that could handle all the calculations needed for the mothership. A neuroscientist named Karen Sajet took a drastic measure and used her own brain as the central processor for the great mothership. She effectively became Fleet Command. With the hyperspace core from the Kartoba installed in the mothership, and now Karen stabilized within the heart of the mothership, final prep was made with the resource collection system and advanced manufacturing system. The mothership was launched, conducting its first test flight with the hyperspace core, jumping to the outer system of Karak. But this had been noticed. Unaware of the implications from thousands of years ago, a ruthless and tyrannical space civilization, the Taidan Empire, which had been waning in its power for centuries now due to civil unrest, seized upon the Kushan breaking their Galactic Council treaty to never develop hyperspace technology again, and attacked. A massive armada of ships was dispatched to the location of the quantum waveform from the hyperspace jump, and there they found a desert world with an orbital defense ring of primitive weapons and a massive space scaffold and some worker vessels. The fleet, without even opening comm channels, wiped them all out and then dropped an atmospheric deprivation device on the planet, effectively igniting the atmosphere and near instantly killing the entire population of the planet. Meanwhile, the mothership jumped to the outer rim of the system to rendezvous with the Kar Salim, a long range research vessel that had been outfitted with supplies and repair systems 10 years prior. However, upon arrival, they discovered the Kar Salim destroyed. Pirates of the Tyrannic Raiders had been sent ahead by the Tidan to clear the outer system, while the Tidan Armada destroyed the planet. The mothership and its defense forces, however, were able to repel the raiders and capturing vital technology that would advance their fleet. But worried about Karak, the mothership made a return hyperspace jump back. Upon arrival, the mothership could do nothing but watch the embers of their world glassed over. The world went from a barely hospitable desert to a glassed, dead world. No life signs could be found. The scaffold was destroyed, and the cryo trays with the last of their people was under attack. Fleet Command and Intel quickly dispatched units to intercept the pair of frigates attacking the cryo trays, capturing one in the process. The crew was apprehended, and the technology was reverse engineered to make Kushan support frigates and assault frigates. Under interrogation, the crewmen that talked only blamed the Kushan. There were no survivors. Gathering everything it could from the orbit of Karak, the mothership dedicated its endeavor to finding their lost homeworld, and the mothership was made the tip of a spear that would drive deep into Tidan space. But not long after they had made a few jumps, something unexpected happened. They encountered a group called the Bentusi, who were traders of the Outer Rim. The Bentusi trade ship, itself a mothership class vessel, shared technology with the Kushan and pointed them on the path to their lost homeworld, warning them of the dangers ahead, the Garden of Kadesh, the Karas graveyard, and their own home, Higara. But the first target of the Kushan was the Tidan that had destroyed their people, the Imperial Armada that had dropped the atmospheric deprivation device on Karak. They would indeed track them down, and capturing an ion cannon frigate would give them possession of a technology that would allow the Kushan to match the Tidan. The fleet would be destroyed, along with the Tidan command ship, Asakin Jo fleet carrier. However, the spoil of the ion cannon wouldn't last, as a surprise visit from the Bentusi would see the return of ancient Kushani ion cannon technology from before the exile, apparently still a match to the declining Tidan. Once the Kushan mothership reached the Great Nebula, this Garden of Kadesh, they discovered the reason for the warning. Pirates lived within. Except they weren't just pirates. Analyzing the hyperspace quantum waveform and their linguistics, and then the discovery of an exile barge, these raiders, these Kadeshi, they were Kushan, who during the exile had broken off and hid within the nebula. Unfortunately, all those who challenged the Kushan mothership were killed, and it is unknown if any Kadeshi survived still within the Great Nebula. The mothership would continue to push forward, capturing new technology and unlocking the secrets of the past that led them to this. Eventually, the Bentusi's betrayal, according to the Tidan, would be discovered, and the trade ship that had been assisting the Kushan would be found under attack by a heavy strike force of Imperial Tidan forces. After this, the Bentusi sought no reason to continue friendly trade with the Tidan, and would confront the Galactic Council on the Kushani behalf to seek intervention. This itself was followed up by an oddly marked Titan destroyer seeking the aid of the Kushan, informing them that a rebellion was already amassing within the general ranks of the Titan navy, and if the Kushan could keep the imperial forces of the Emperor focused on themselves, the Titan rebels would be able to mount counterattacks on imperial positions, weakening the Emperor of the Titan's hold. An agreement was reached, and the forces began acting towards a mutual goal. Upon taking down a section of the massive hyperspace inhibitor network that surrounded the Hagaran system, the final push to Hagara's Angel Moon and Hagara itself would occur. But Fleet Command would encounter a danger. unknown to anyone else. Unbound, as people like Karen, the Bentusi, and the Emperor of the Tidan were known as, being connected to a hyperspace core granted supernatural powers, and the Emperor would use this to knock out Karen's jet during the final fight. The assumed hope was that Kushan morale would drop, was instead met with an unprecedented determination, bordering on blood rage from the Kushan fleet, who at this point had started jokingly calling Fleet Command their own goddess. By the time the Titan rebels arrived to assist in the assault against the Emperor's flagship, the Kushan fleet had wiped out all resistance towards their homeworld. The war was over, the Emperor was dead, and medical teams had been able to save Karen Sajet. When the Kushan began landing on Higara, Karen, now escorted by a hefty team of Kushan Marines, was the last to disembark and set foot on the homeworld. But peace doesn't last long. Within a few decades, the mining rigs of Kith Som Tau would discover an emerging threat on the galaxy in the form of the Beast, a life form that infected all those it came across. When data from the ship it was discovered on was decoded, it was found to be from another galaxy entirely. Kith Som Tau would eventually see victory over the beast, helping liberate Taidan Republican ships and worlds, as well as others of the Galactic Council. However, over 100 years later, a new threat would emerge from the eastern fringes. Formerly nomadic raiders, known as the Vega, were suddenly being organized into great war hosts, and a leader calling himself the Sajukar, the Chosen of Sajuk, would begin a merciless campaign towards Higara. It would be discovered that this warlord, Makan, was in possession of one of three ancient progenitor hyperspace cores, and that whoever possessed all three would discover Sajuk. And Makan knew where the second one was, thanks to Taidan loyalists who had fled their way. The hyperspace core of the Kushan was one of these legendary cores. The Kushan quickly built a new mothership, the original being converted into a massive factory satellite around Higara, and brought to it the finest crew the new Higaran Empire could muster. While the war with the Vega had many costs, none could hit the Kushan and Karen Sajet, who was once again operating as Fleet Command, more than that of the Bentusi. It is revealed by the Bentusi themselves that they are the ones in possession of the third core, and that they had always known that this time would come. In an attempt to protect the Kushan from progenitor attack drones, the great harbour ship of Bentus, the last of the Bentusi, self-destructed. The Kushan were only just able to hyperspace out, and hyperspace sensors across the galaxy picked up the destruction of the great harbour ship. The Kushan had to move fast to recover, repair, and install the core before the Vega arrived at their location. But while the Kushan uncovered the history, the Vega uncovered the location through the great hyperspace gate of Balcora. For Sajuk lay asleep at the center of the galaxy, between the supermassive black holes. After a devastating fight with the honor guard forces of the Vega and Makan himself, the Kushan would recover all three cores and install them in Sajuk, who turned out to be a massive progenitor mothership with a heavy phased cannon array main gun. As Sajuk now had the ability to hyperspace jump a bubble anywhere in the galaxy, the Kushan mothership fleet, now led from the Sajuk, the second mothership, the Pride of Higara, abandoned at the center of the galaxy, jumped back to Higara in time to support the last thralls of the Higaran defense fleet fighting off the onslaught of the Vega. But this victory was bittersweet. Makan had discovered Slank in the far reaches, dug it up, and launched it at Higara. Ancient planet killers that looked progenitor but had quantum waveform signatures like that of the Bentusi. Arriving in low orbit over Higara, the planet killers began launching atmospheric deprivation devices en masse at Higara. Only Sajuk had the power to destroy a planet killer, and there were three. The Higaran fleet formed into interceptor walls, destroying the devices, whilst the Sajuk made tactical hyperspace jumps to move into position to destroy the planet killers themselves with its main gun. The Kushan and Karen Sajet once again proved successful against great odds, but questions would linger. Where did the planet killers come from? Why did they have Bentusi hyperspace signatures? However, these questions would be put on hold, as the great progenitor Mothership would begin pointing the way to the Eye of Iran, the prime hyperspace gate that would unlock the entire hyperspace gate network across the galaxy and beyond. A new age had begun. The age of Sajet. The Kushan continue, and though the Fifth Fleet with the new mothership Kar Sajuk has disappeared, the Kushan have begun commissioning additional motherships into service, the newest being the Kar Kushan. Imogen Sajet, another member of Kith Sajet, has been installed as Fleet Command, and she and Admiral Paktu at Intel Command aboard the mothership are setting out to the anomaly regions to discover what happened to the Kar Sajuk and Karen Sajet. Thanks for joining me on this dive. Believe it or not, the fuck do I care either way? But this is not sponsored. I'm just in way too deep with Homeworld's lore. And if it was even remotely affordable to get the Homeworld RPG books from Modifius in Australia, I would fucking have them. But alas. For the record, I did back the Fig backer kit of Homeworld 3 from years ago, and Blackbird Interactive are nothing but lovely, understandable people who delayed release so that they could get a game out with as few bugs as possible. Now, I don't know about you, but an old school company doing things the old school way, shipping a product that works on day one, yeah, there may be some bugs, but it's not like the game breaks, or everyone's missing their face, or people walk off into the sky. You know the devs I'm talking about. Anyway, no idea what I'll do. If the next video, who knows? Give me a reasonable idea, I'll consider it. Did I get something wrong? Tell me. I won't change it, but I'll be interested. Anyway, later, Space Dogs. Nexus. End transmission.